What's up, y'all? This is Under the Arch Sports. I'm Eric.
And I'm David.
And today we are going to preview Mizzou's game at South Carolina. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and find us on Facebook and Instagram. So there's a lot of news from both sides coming into this Mizzou-Carolina game. So before we break down the game itself, let's get a quick rundown of everything. First, for South Carolina, Will Muschamp has been fired. They are giving Muschamp 13 million reasons to not coach at South Carolina. He's gone. Their secondary, in response, basically walked away. Both starting corners, J.C. Horn and Israel Mokuamu, they have both opted out of the rest of the season to prepare for the NFL draft. Starting safety, R.J. Roderick, has opted out as well. And so has freshman Macias Scott. Now, taking a look at Mizzou, there's a lot here. Looking at the injury front first, Larry Borum, the right tackle, he's listed as questionable. Xavier Delgado, the starting left guard, he is questionable to doubtful. Daniel Parker Jr., the tight end, is doubtful. And defensive tackle Kobe Whiteside is questionable at best. So Mizzou is shorthanded there. They're also shorthanded as the suspensions from the Florida brawl have carried over to the first half of the Carolina game. That's Markel Utsi, Dylan Spencer, Chad Bailey. And here's where it gets real dicey. Due to COVID, contact tracing positive tests, we don't know specifics, but we know two of those three suspended players are going to be out for the entire game, whether they tested positive or contact tracing. We don't know what. And we don't know which two. We know that the defensive backfield for Mizzou looks to be shorthanded because Coach Drinkwitz in his weekly press conference said that they've had wide receivers cross-training to play defensive back. Freshman offensive lineman, Drake Heismeyer has been playing defensive line this week. And Jatorian Hansford, once thought to be out for the season, he looks to be starting at defensive end against Carolina. So the defensive line and the secondary could be very interesting. Now on to the game itself. Dave, let's take a look at the South Carolina offense. And it starts with the quarterback, Colin Hill. He's a grad transfer from Colorado State. And he's been steady but not spectacular, Dave.
Yeah, he's mainly a pocket passer. He's thrown 6 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. So if you can get some pressure and maybe rattle his cage, he is prone to possibly throwing the turnover our way. Another thing to think about with South Carolina's offense is they're more of a running team. Their running back, who is it? Kevin Harris has 817 yards rushing, and that's through 7 games. So he's carrying most of the load, and usually that's about 6.2 yards per carry.
And 13 touchdowns.
Yeah.
That's, and look, the highlights I've seen, there have been a handful where they just give it to him from inside 5 yards and he just pounds it in. But he had an 88-yarder against Vanderbilt and a 45-yarder against LSU. So he's capable of breaking one and taking it the distance. Now, when you look at the receiving core for South Carolina, Colin Hill has 1,372 passing yards on the season, 596. And even 43% of that is to one guy, Shi Smith. And this guy, he is only 5'10", but, man, he is athletic. He's, he can go up and high point a ball. He can do it all, really. I was really impressed with him in the film that I saw of him. Now, what's that mean for the depleted Missouri secondary, Dave? What do you think?
Well, that all comes down to who's actually playing in the secondary. I personally think if Enos Rickstraw is playing, I think he's going to be matched up with them for most of the game because he's probably one of our more solid cornerbacks. I don't know if you would match up zone with this guy or play man-to-man because he can do pretty much anything. So it's just going to be hard to cover him in general.
Yeah, when one guy has such a big chunk of the receiving yards and is that important to the passing game, I'd put Ennis Rakestraw on Shi Smith, and if he needs it, I just have one of the safeties just shade over and do what it takes to limit him, make another receiver beat you, I think.
Yeah, and my other big concern going into this game, and you mentioned it earlier, is our D-line is depleted. So we're going up against a team who can run the ball pretty well. One of the keys to Mizzou winning this game will be slowing down or even stopping to run and forcing South Carolina to pass the ball. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of scheme Mizzou pulls out and tries to put on South Carolina.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's all about bottling Kevin Harris up. If Missouri can slow him down enough that South Carolina is forced to be a passing offense, I think Missouri's going to walk away with this game. Now, speaking of offense, let's talk about the Tigers. It's set up for Connor Bazelak to have a field day. He had his day against LSU, 406 yards, 4 touchdowns. He hasn't thrown a touchdown pass in any other game. And that absolutely has to change for Missouri to win this game, especially with the secondary for Carolina being what it is.
Now, with the secondary being what it is, I think in this game, Drinkwitz is going to throw a lot of motion into the offense, kind of like what we saw against LSU. And I think you're going to see him open up the passing game a whole lot more, depending on how well the offensive line holds up.
Yeah, if Xavier Delgado is not able to go, he's questionable to doubtful, as I said. If he's out and Dylan Spencer is out, you're at a third string left guard. And don't forget, Larry Borum is questionable. You're starting to run low on offensive linemen, especially if Heismeyer is playing defense this week. So, yeah, I think that, depending on how confident Coach Drink is in the offense, that lends itself to what you were saying, possible motion, misdirection, maybe more screens. I think you could see a whole lot of Tyler Beatty and a whole lot of Jalen Knox.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I do think offensively, Mizzou will have to get the ground game going if they want to pass the ball. So, and that's relied solely upon the offensive line. I don't know if you try and run outside or inside. It just depends on how well they've come together in the last 2 weeks of practice, because they haven't played a game in 2 weeks. So it has given them time. It has given them time to deal with.
Game, it'll be 3 weeks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the downside, but the plus side to that is it's given them a chance to prepare with what they have offensively. They know what they're dealing with on the line, and it's given the line time to work together instead of just having a random player come in to fill an injured player. So it's a little up in question on how our offense is going to move the ball, but I think with the way the defense is falling apart for South Carolina, is a good chance they'll put up some big numbers this weekend.
Yeah, I think Connor Bazelak has to challenge the Carolina secondary, right? J.C. Horn, son of Joe Horn, former NFL receiver, and Israel Mokuamu, they're both there have been NFL mock drafts that have had each of them as first rounders. Right, so that's a big loss, especially because the Carolina pass defense is ranked 100th or worse in the country in like every major passing category, yards allowed per game, pass completion percentage allowed, total touchdowns allowed, all of it, they are 100th or worse. So there's no reason for the Missouri offense to not challenge them and make the new Carolina secondary prove that they can hang.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. Based off that information, let's move into our predictions. What are you thinking about this game?
Yeah, so we were talking before we started filming. We were looking at the over/under. You said the over/under that you saw was 55.
Yes, and then the spread is 6.5 in Mizzou's favor.
Yeah, the line. I'm not sure what I would do, but I feel like the line the over/under being 55. ESPN, whatever they're using, has it at 54. I would hammer the over all day long, with Carolina having 3 of their starting secondary guys opt out and the total uncertainty with the Missouri secondary. I'm hitting the over all day on those. I'm going to pick, for the first time all season, I'm going to pick Mizzou. The Tigers are going to go down to the wrong Columbia. They're going to get a 41-37 win over Carolina.
Making it close. I had a little bit bigger of a difference in my prediction. I do think Mizzou is going to win this, and they're going to win this a little bit more. And I say this, they'll have a little bit more control of the game than the score might even say. I think they'll be in total control of this game. I have them winning 42-31. So anyway, this is Under the Arc Sports. Thank you for watching.
See you guys next time.